Hi boys and girls! In this video I'm going to be teaching you how to write a letter. So over the past few weeks we've been traveling to different places with stories and videos and different fun activities for you guys. We've talked about places like Africa. We've studied some different countries in Asia, like we've talked about the Great Wall of China and those beautiful Japanese cherry blossoms. We've even gone to lots of different countries in Europe, Greece, Italy, Spain, France, so we can kind of say that we've been all over the world in our studies. Now, something that a lot of people do when they travel, and something you might have done or your family might have done before, is send letters to their loved ones. You might want to tell them about some of the things you've experienced, some of the wonderful things that you've seen, some of the awesome places that you've been. I know that whenever I have traveled, I love sending letters to people and even pictures to go along with it so they can understand what I've been experiencing and all the cool things that I've seen. So I have a template here for you guys that's going to help you write your letter. So you're going to find the same paper in your folder. Now this is what it looks like. And it says write a letter. Now, what's great about this paper is it has the different parts of the letter that you need to include, and we're going to go over what each of those things are. So in our example up here, we see that a letter includes the date. A letter includes a greeting. Your letter has a body. It has a closing. And it has a signature. Now let's break that down and talk about what each of those things mean. Now, the date is pretty self-explanatory. We know what the date is because we do that in our work at school as well. The date is the day that you are writing the letter. So, I'm going to use mine as an example. We see our little example up here. They wrote theirs on December 13th. 2009 is their example day. Now, that's not the date it is today. So on my letter right down here, they've left me a line, and you're going to do the same thing to write the date. So let me add that to mine. Today is May, and they wrote theirs as numbers. I'm going to write mine out in words. You can do it either way. May 11th, and it is 2020. So you can see that on mine, I did what they did in the example, and I put date. And this is going to be so convenient for you because each section, each component of your letter is labeled. So step one is done. Now I'm moving on to the second part of the letter. That is the greeting. Now, the greeting is the person that you are writing it to, how you're saying hello to them. In this letter is written to Mikey, so they wrote, Dear Mikey. A lot of letters start with dear. Sometimes you could say hello. But I think I'm going to do what they did and say dear, but who am I writing my letter to? I think I'm going to write a letter to my mom. So, on my letter right here on my template, I have my space for my greeting. That's where you're going to say hello to the recipient of your letter, the person that you are writing this to. And you can write it to whoever you want. You could write it to one of your teachers. You could write it to your friend. You could write it to a family member. I'm going to write mine to my mom. So I'm going to write, Dear Mom. And I'm going to add a piece of punctuation right there. And if you look very closely, they have it on theirs as well. We've talked about this earlier in the year. There is a comma. So, on mine I put a comma as well. We're taking a pause. We've said hello. We're taking a pause, and we're going to move on to the next part of our letter, which is the body. Now, the body in the example is rather short. Up here it says, I can't wait for the soccer game. So, whoever is writing to Mikey wants him to know that they cannot wait for their soccer game. That's what this letter is about in the example. Now, the body of your letter is where you're going to do your most writing. Right here. The body of your letter is the message that you are sending. It's whatever you want to tell somebody about. Now, in the letters that you guys are going to be doing, you're going to be sharing part of our travels, all of the different countries and continents we visited. I want you to pick something, maybe one or two places or your favorite thing that you've learned about to write like you were actually there. So, I'm going to show you an example of that. The body of my letter, I'm going to choose to write about Africa. That was our first continent that we visited way back a few weeks ago, and I'm going to write my letter about the things that I saw in Africa. So, Dear Mom, in my letter I'm going to write, I have loved visiting Africa. Now, when you finish a sentence, remember you have to put punctuation at the end. So at the end of my first sentence, I've put the period. So I have loved visiting Africa. My favorite part has been seeing all of the animals. Remember, we did a lot of work about different animals in Africa. My favorite part has been seeing the animals. There's my second sentence done, so I'm adding a period at the end. I even got to see an elephant. It was huge. Wish you were here. So, I'm going to show you the body of my letter. So again, I have loved visiting Africa, period. My favorite part has been seeing all the animals, period. I even got to see an elephant, period. It was huge. And after that one, I put an exclamation point. Remember, our exclamation points, after we're showing big emotions or exciting things, that would be a good place to put that piece of punctuation. And then wish you were here. A lot of people say that in their letters when they're writing to their loved ones that aren't with them. So it's up to you where you'd like to write about. I want you to pick one of the places that we've been studying over the last few weeks. And this means you're going to have to think back. You're going to have to do some brainstorming, maybe do a mind map of all of the places that we have seen in our studies. And I want you to pick something you want to write to somebody about. Maybe you want to write about the Great Wall of China. Maybe you want to write about the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Any of the things that we've been learning about, you can choose. It's up to you. And I want you to pretend like we actually went there. So we're moving on. We've done the body. Now we're moving on to the part of the letter, the closing. The closing is where you're going to be saying goodbye. Now, people usually sign off their letters with the word sincerely. Some people might say love. I like saying love. I think that's a nice way to say goodbye. So I'm going to move right down here to my section that is labeled closing. And I'm going to write the word love because I'm sending it to my mom with love. Again, putting a comma. It's up here in our example as well. Putting that comma. And then the last part is the signature. This part is going to be really easy because you're signing it with your name. This is how they know the letter is from you. So, love, and I'm going to write my name right down here so my mom knows who this letter is from. Here we go. We have all of our components. We have the date. We have our greeting, how we say hello. We have the body of our letter, which is the message that we're sharing, whatever we want to tell them about. We have our closing where we say goodbye, sincerely, love. And then we have our signature, which is your own name. The paper that is coming in your folder is going to look exactly like this one. So you are going to be able to follow these steps in this video to be able to write your letter. Now, I want you to try to write at least a few sentences. You see that I wrote kind of small, so I didn't fill up all of my lines. But if you want to write more, you can always flip it over to the back and continue. If you want to just keep on going and tell them about lots of different places, if you want to tell them about all the different continents we've been to, it's up to you. Remember, we're pretending like we have traveled all around the world and writing about what we've seen. Another thing that you're going to be adding later in the week, you're going to be adding an illustration. Sometimes letters come in the form of postcards, and postcards usually have a beautiful picture of somewhere that you have been in them, so you get a chance to decorate it. Whatever you are writing about that you've seen, you can add an illustration of it so the person you're writing your letter to can be able to imagine it and see the place that you've been. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I cannot wait to see the letters that you guys write.